Hello, this is RV Vagabond Jerry, and in this video I'm going to talk about different types of places to go lot docking. Now, if you're not familiar with the term lot docking, it's kind of like boondocking, except it's in a city, generally. Some people actually call that boondocking as well, but it's not. The boon part of boondocking means way outside of a city or a populated area, whereas lot docking is generally in a city or a populated area. So I've made a list of 14 types of places where you can go lot docking. So I'm going to go through my list in alphabetical order. First is the Bass Pro Shops. Now, those are not well-known lot docking locations. However, Bass Pro Shops generally have really large parking lots. And after the store closes, the parking lot clears out. There's a lot of room there to stay the night. As long as there's not a no overnight parking sign, you're good. Same thing with Cabela's. The Cabela's stores, however, are very well known to be very welcoming to lot docking. Nearly all of the Cabela's stores will allow overnight parking. Next is Camping World. Not all of them, but I would say most of the Camping World locations do have a large parking lot where they do invite people to stay overnight. And Camping World is the largest camping RV chain stores around the United States. Like them or not, Camping World is the biggest resource for RVers, especially for supplies. They have large supply stores, and they do welcome people staying overnight because that helps them with their business. You might go in shopping. Next is casinos. I've stayed at a lot of casinos overnight, and all of the Indian casinos, I think, do allow overnight parking. And pretty much any casino outside of Nevada is okay with you overnight parking. Now, in Nevada, it's very sketchy. There's very few casinos that do allow RVers to stay overnight in their parking lot. You can check, but they are kind of hard to find. And why? I do not know. Why they want to send their customers away is still amazing to me. Now, the best way to find the casinos that do allow overnight parking, there's a website called Casino Camper that has a really good listing of all the casinos around North America that do allow overnight parking. Next is churches. And I have stayed at a number of churches overnight. Generally, you want to find the larger churches that have the larger parking lots, and I think those tend to be the Catholic churches that have the largest parking lots. And you generally want to go in after about 9 p.m. You go at 7 or 8 p.m. If there's nobody there in the parking lot, that's fine, but a lot of them have evening meetings, so you want to wait until everybody's gone from there at night and pull in. So what I do when I plan on staying at a church is I will find the location that I want while it's still light, then go out to dinner, do whatever else I want to do, and then come back about 9, 10, 11 o'clock whenever I'm ready to turn in for the evening and stay there. And generally, late at night, there is no one there to complain, if they even would complain, and I don't think they would. Now, there is also a website called Faithful Parking that is a collection of churches who specifically invite RVers. Now, they do charge a fee, but with that fee, you usually get an electrical outlet. So that's really nice, and I have done that a couple times. Next is Cracker Barrel restaurants. And Cracker Barrel really is the only restaurant that is known to allow RVers to park overnight. It's very popular in the RV community. Other restaurants, nobody talks about. And the nice thing about Cracker Barrel is that they have long, lined out spaces specifically for RVs and buses. And they close their restaurants, I think, about 10 p.m. So after that, their parking lot empties, and you've got it all to yourself. Even in cities and areas where overnight parking in store parking lots is against city or county ordinances, Cracker Barrels will still allow overnight parking. Now, it's not at all Cracker Barrel locations. Some of them do not have parking lots large enough for RVers to be there, at least not while they're still open. You pull in after they close, you got plenty of room, and then you want to leave before the next morning business really starts up. Maybe go in for breakfast and then leave. Next is the Elks Lodges. And Elks Lodges are very well known for allowing RVers to park overnight in their parking lots. And on the Elks website, they have a specific area for reference to the Elks locations that specifically do allow RVers to stay overnight. And a lot of the Elks Lodges actually have an RV park, sorta. It's still in their parking lot, but they will have hookups for electricity and water. Not many of them have dump stations. They do charge a fee for that, or at least the donation, but it's a very reasonable fee when an RV park, a regular RV park, will charge you $40. An Elks Lodge might charge you $15 or $20 a night, which is not bad for the hookups. So the listings on the Elks website is really good for that. Other good places is like the Home Depot stores and the Lowe's home improvement stores have really large parking lots, and as long as there's not a sign specifically forbidding overnight parking, then generally you will be good there. They're not known to be really welcoming for RVers staying overnight, but if there's not a sign saying you can't, then you can. Also, the Moose Lodges, very similar to the Elks, except there's not as many Moose Lodges, and the Moose Lodges website do not have a listing of which locations have an area where they allow overnight parking. I'm not a Moose member, but I have stayed at a couple of their locations as a guest of another Moose member. So for Moose and the Elks, you do have to be a member in order to stay overnight in their parking lot. Some are a little bit lenient about that, especially if you're with someone else who's a member, then you're good. And moving down on my list, the rest areas along highways, picnic areas. In most states, they do allow overnight parking in their roadside rest areas, where you will see a lot of the 18-wheeler trucks parking there overnight. Unless there's a sign specifically saying no overnight parking, then you're always good at rest areas or picnic areas along highways. And similar to that is travel information centers, which you will find along major highways. Soon after entering a state, they will have a travel information center, sort of a promotion for their state. They usually have large parking lots where they will allow overnight parking. They generally will close like at 5 p.m. So after that, as long as there's not a sign forbidding it, then you're good there too. And then we have truck stops. And I think all of the truck stops do allow overnight parking. It's mostly for the truckers, but they do allow it for RVs too. Now, some of the truck stops that are not very large, you may go and find all the spaces taken or almost all of them taken. If there's only 1 or 2 or 3 spaces left, I don't like to use those because the truckers really have or should have priority at truck stops. But if there's plenty room, I have stayed at truck stops overnight many times. I prefer not to because they're noisy, especially when the truckers leave their diesel engines running all night long. It really bothers me, especially if I'm going to be sleeping with my windows open. But if I have to, I'll stay at a truck stop. And last on the list is Walmart. And Walmart is my favorite place to lot dock for basically 4 reasons. Most Walmarts have fuel stations. That's where I like to buy my diesel. And Walmarts will almost always have the lowest fuel prices in town. And also I do my grocery shopping at Walmart as much as possible. And they have hot foods. So as I'm shopping, I'll pick up some hot food for my next meal there. And Walmarts will generally have a store like a Subway or a McDonald's where I can go in and have a meal. Now let me tell you about some of the websites where you can find these places. The one I like the best, and there's a lot of them, but my favorite is rvparky.com. And it shows all of the official overnight parking places. And official is the ones that I've given you in this list here. The unofficial places are just miscellaneous random locations. Now, if the RV Parking website doesn't show me what I want, I'll go to one of the other websites like Casino Camper and the Faithful Parking. RV Parking doesn't show any churches, and it only shows some of the casinos. And it does not list Elks Lodges either. So I may need to go to those websites to find those specific places. But if I have exhausted what's available in those websites, the other one that I go to is Days Inn Directory. And that one shows the Lotdocking locations that are, quote, unofficial. Places where people have found that there are some kind of lot available somewhere that is not one of these specific types of places that I've given you in my list. Most of them are outside of the city, but then a lot of them are in town as well. And they will give you very specific places that the members of the Days Inn Directory website have reported where you can go and lot dock. Not associated with any of these businesses that I gave you in the list. Just miscellaneous places where people have found is good for staying overnight. And if even that has not helped find me a place that I need, I just drive around and look. As long as it's still light out, where I got a good view of things, I just drive around town or the area, and I've never been in an area where I could not find a place to park for the night. I look around for abandoned businesses that have a parking lot where nobody's going to care if you're there or not, especially for just a day or so. If you're there for several days, somebody might report you to the police, but if you're just there for one night, one day, nobody's going to get upset about that. And sometimes that is the easiest way. Rather than depending on these websites to help me find places, I just drive around looking for an appropriate place where I think nobody is going to care that I'm staying there all night. So now I'm going to go outside and show you where I'm lot docking right now, which is my favorite place to lot dock. And then I'll come back in here for my closing. And right now, I am actually at my favorite place to lot dock anywhere. This is a Walmart in Del Rio, Texas. And not only is this my favorite place, this is my favorite slot. because I'm off of the edge here where you're not supposed to even drive, so I can open up my slide. And the best part is that they have lined out these really long spaces, and each one says RV park only. RV park only. So 18-wheeler trucks like these are not allowed to park here. Now, I don't mind the trucks as long as they turn off their diesel engines, which these did, fortunately. I've only been to, I think, maybe just a couple other Walmarts where they had these long spaces lined out like that. But this is the only one that I think I've ever seen where they actually paint on the ground RV park only. And the spaces are so long that another RV the size of mine could get up behind me and I wouldn't even know it. Well, folks, if you've been looking for new ways to lot dock, then I hope this video has helped you. And if you look into the description below the video, I'm going to put links to each one of the websites that I mentioned. And if you know of any other resources like this, then please mention it below in the comments. Good day, folks.